Keeping Taiwan's military in shape, the Defense Ministry hints at new incentives to retain talent. Details emerge about U.S.-Taiwan trade negotiations, with Taipei offering a Taiwan model, but some aren't happy.
所以这个还要防范这个风险，好不好？这是我们国人所担心的。
Plus, a civilian airline has offered to help monitor Chinese ships around Taiwan, but will the military make a deal? A warm welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Leslie Liao. Here in Taiwan, defense officials are unveiling plans for special units like intelligence personnel, missile experts, and drone operators to get more pay. As our reporter Larry Isiano explains, it's part of the country's plan to increase military preparedness in the face of rising threats from China.
Frontline units, drone operators, and specialized personnel are set for major pay boosts this year, with some allowances jumping as much as 140%, the Defense Ministry says. The move aims to attract recruits, keep skilled staff, and strengthen Taiwan's readiness for a potential conflict.
我们这些相关的加急都是在我们整体的规划项目之一，主要就是我们要考量到每一个任务的性质、繁重的程度，以及艰难性还有专业性等等。
In November, the Defense Ministry revealed that while they were able to recruit more people than expected this year, they're still operating at only 80% of their full capacity, a gap the Defense Ministry hopes to fill with these pay raises. But the military is still growing. Last Thursday, President Lai Ching-te announced nearly $40 billion in funding for a new air defense system, precision munitions, fighter jets, and more, all of which need personnel to operate. As the Defense Ministry focuses more on advanced, complex weapons, keeping skilled personnel is becoming increasingly important. Currently, more than half of military staff receive frontline combat allowances, and the ministry plans to extend these to newer units like drone operators.
比如无人机，那就涉及到说战斗部队的以及的定义。那如果符合战斗部队的定义的，我们都会争取把它纳入战斗部队，然后领取战斗部队加级。
Personnel in counterintelligence, air defense, cyber warfare, and maritime and aviation roles will also see more benefits. All of this comes as China keeps up pressure on Taiwan. The Mainland Affairs Council says 5 new sites have been built along China's eastern coast, including air force bases, naval facilities, and fuel storage depots, all facing Taiwan.
从上海的浦东到浙江的乐清湾以及漳浦直升机，这3个军事基地都在扩建，可以直接驻扎它的海军陆战队或者是空降兵，威胁台湾以及澎湖。
There could be further increases in military pay. This latest report does not include the doubled volunteer allowance that opposition lawmakers approved in June. With a shrinking population, the Defense Ministry is putting more energy into making military service attractive, and its latest reports show it's willing to invest heavily to do so. Ryan Wu and Larry Siano for TaiwanPlus.
A civilian airline wants to help Taiwan's military monitor Chinese ships around Taiwan as the country pushes a whole-of-society resilience strategy. Cadence Quaranta has more.
Using a powerful radar device attached to the bottom of their plane, this crew tracks ships at sea, primarily Chinese ones. Now, they want to provide their findings to Taiwan's military to help counter Chinese threats.
我们不只可以协助国军在做空中的目标监侦，也可以做海面的目标监侦。这样我就可以在第一时间让他们告知他们，我们在东部海域24海里外，或是某一个位置的经纬度，提供给他们说这里有中国的比如说旅洋3型驱逐舰在这个地方出没，这样子他们就有时间可以预应。
Apex Aviation, which runs a small Taiwanese flight school and charter service, is proposing this idea at a time when Taiwan's government has been pushing what it calls a whole-of-society resilience strategy. That means Taipei is increasingly turning to civilians and private companies to help strengthen the country's defense, as Taiwan's waters and airspace face growing incursions from China. As part of the initiative, Taiwan's military has started working with companies to produce items like drones. But the military says it has no plans to work with Apex, saying it can monitor China's activities on its own. Experts say Taiwan needs the kind of surveillance APEC offers, but allowing a private company to run it might pose some legal questions.
这个就是巡逻机，它是涉及到公权力的使用，就是 enforcement 可不可以交给 private sector， 就是私人部门去执行？这个在法律上会有一些讨论的空间。
So while a deal hasn't been made with this particular company, it does offer a glimpse into how private companies could jump in to help in a potential conflict with Beijing, and the unique considerations that may come with those partnerships. Justin Wu and Keynes Quaranta for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan is racing to seal a trade deal with the U.S. to lower its 20% tariff, but the strategy is sparking controversy at home. Opposition lawmakers warn the government's new plan to share manufacturing expertise with Washington could endanger the country's tech dominance. Chris Gorin reports from the legislature.
Taiwan cabinet officials say U.S.-Taiwan trade talks are in their final stages and revealed a so-called Taiwan model of U.S. investments as a bargaining chip. They revealed the concept here in the legislature while taking comments from lawmakers. Officials also reiterated Taiwan's 4 main goals in the trade talks, and those are lowering Taiwan's reciprocal tariff from its current 20%, preventing the stacking of any additional tariffs on top of that 20%, avoiding special tariffs on chips known as Section 232, and gaining favorable investment conditions, especially avoiding being taxed in both countries. And in return, they're offering the so-called Taiwan model of investment. They describe that as being private sector-led investment rather than government-led investment like Japan and South Korea have recently done, the creation of one-stop industrial clusters in the U.S., similar to Taiwan's science parks, workforce training for U.S. chip workers, and government support, including credit guarantees and financial assistance to Taiwanese companies in the U.S. There was some pushback from opposition lawmakers to the plan, especially the workforce training. Some worried that this could cause a kind of technology drain and damage Taiwan's lead in semiconductors.
8委员不会，因为最先进的技术还是会在台湾。好，所以
你一直讲最先进技术没错，但是我们在训练美国的劳工的时候，这个技术，这整个工业的技术就会有这个缺口，有这个危险性啊，这个风险会产生的。
它是一个 operator 的这个技能啊，它不是研发单位了。
所以这个还要防范这个风险，好不好？是，这是我们国人所担心的。
是。
Officials also denied rumors that Taiwan would pledge $400 billion in investment as part of the deal, but didn't give any concrete numbers as to how much they would be willing to invest. But with the final terms of the deal still under wraps, anxiety over the future of Taiwan's most important industry remains high. Joseph Wu, Chris Ma, and Chris Gorin in Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
For more on what the U.S.-Taiwan trade talks could mean for both sides, Chris Gorin spoke with Daniel Liu from the Zhonghua Institution for Economic Research, or SEER.
Daniel, we heard a lot today about the so-called Taiwan model of U.S. investment, but based on your understanding, what else does the U.S. want out of a U.S.-Taiwan trade deal?
The requirement for the U.S. typically, including the following. The first one, you have to liberalize your domestic market. The second one, you have to increase the procurement from the government, in ordinary procurement, also the military procurement. The third one is you have to increase your private investment in the U.S. The 3, cornerstones, the requirement by the U.S. However, we have to, I think, right now, if we believe the negotiation is still under the progress, we have to, as the U.S. may have to more the U.S. talents to support Taiwan's investment in the U.S. to reduce the level of the outflow of the Taiwan elite engineers to the U.S.
Yes, some have expressed concern about a so-called brain drain of Taiwan chip talent to the U.S. How big of a problem is that in your mind?
In order to sustain the greenfield investment in the U.S., Taiwan in the future is very likely Taiwan also has to export the talents from Taiwan to the U.S. As you know, Taiwan right now, we are, our population already declined, starting from 2020. So we in Taiwan, we also short of the talent, short of the enough labor force. I think that is the problem we have to consider. Not only the outflow of the capital, but also the outflow of the talent.
Taiwan's science parks are a unique competitive advantage of Taiwan. that's made it a leader in the semiconductor industry. But what does Taiwan stand to gain from helping the U.S. build its own version of those, or is their only goal to get relief from tariffs?
I think that is purely the result of the geopolitics. You know, I think that is a request by the U.S. government, the geopolitical tension considerations. So if this is not purely from the economic motivation, that will affect Taiwan. I think that's for sure. We would not invest that much to the U.S., even if the U.S. is an important, market for Taiwan. So this is very clear. Okay, but right now, all the countries, including the neighboring country for Taiwan, have to negotiate with the U.S. to try to get the tariff reduction. So this is a challenge Taiwan has to face.
That was Daniel Liu of the Zhonghua Institution for Economic Research. Travelers at Taiwan's largest airport were excited to be among the first to take off from the newly opened Terminal 3 concourse.
很幸运，然后看到新的登机口，觉得超级兴奋。我觉得很漂亮，然后很宽敞，然后会让人家觉得台湾又更美了。这样。
现在变很宽敞，进来蛮舒服的。因为之前旧航校，我觉得天花板太低，会觉得很压迫。
968 passengers boarded flights from Terminal 3 at Taiwan International Airport as it began trial operations on Monday. China Airlines, Starlux, and EVA Air each operated one trial flight. The facility features a bold orange-red design and 13-meter-high ceilings and stretches more than 700 meters. However, its main entrance is not yet open, meaning passengers must enter through Terminal 2.
虽然今天从第二航厦进来有点远，但我相信之后第三航厦那个大门启用之后，应该就会更方便一点。
The new terminal is set to handle almost 6 million more passengers every year after it opens in 2027. The first of the long-awaited F-16 fighter jets Taiwan bought from the U.S. are scheduled to undergo test flights this month. Washington agreed to sell 66 of the planes to Taipei for $8 billion in 2019, originally all scheduled to arrive here by the end of next year. Although that deadline is unlikely, military officials say 54 of them are currently in production. Previously, the manufacturer, Lockheed Martin, said it was working hard to speed up the delayed deliveries. A Taiwanese defense tech firm showed off its drone boats this weekend in the country's south. Thunder Tiger Corp on Friday put on a coordinated swarm of its Sea Shark 680C drones at a harbor in Pingdong County. The show demonstrated complicated moves by 6 of the drone boats under the control of a single pilot. The Sea Shark 680s are part of a $950 million defense bid to provide more than 1,300 drones to Taiwan's military for coastal patrol support. The boats are equipped with AI-adjusted inputs and anti-jamming capabilities. Taiwan will head to the polls next year to vote for local officials. The country's main political parties want to make sure they get every vote they can as they fight for highly coveted mayorships. Tiffany Wong reports.
Mayoral hopefuls from the ruling Democratic Progressive Party rally supporters in Kaohsiung. The southern city is one of 4 races in Taiwan's 2026 local elections where the incumbent mayors are reaching their term limits, and new talent are hoping for the chance to make a difference. Although the race is a year away, local elections are often viewed as precursors to the presidential vote and as a gauge of public support for each party. And that's a key metric, as Taiwan's government is currently split between the DPP and an opposition bloc composed of the Kuomintang and the smaller Taiwan People's Party. Vying for every vote they can, lawmakers are pushing to allow absentee voting. By law, voters must return to where their household is registered, which is often not where they live or work. But the opposition wants people to be able to vote from anywhere within the country.
我希望民进党好好的看一看世界各国，国内移转投票早就成为常态了，不要把国内移转投票视为洪水猛兽，可能因为学业，可能因为工作没有办法出来投票，要阻碍年轻人投票。
Lawmakers from the DPP have concerns. Election interference has long been a key issue in Taiwan, and China often tries to influence results using outright manipulation or online influence campaigns.
不在籍投票会不会增加大选的变数？会不会便于境外势力的介选干预、选务、选票移动的这些种种的纠纷？ 争议，有没有思考过？我们才是认为这些才是要共同来讨论的。
Instead, the DPP has proposed a different way to give voters more time to get home, letting them take off work the day before an election. Each party's proposals will be sent to committee for review and revision.
不管是蓝也好，白也好，都会针对不在籍投票的各个版本再做细致的讨论跟整合。那民进党有不同的思路，用不同的方式，看看有没有办法刺激投票率。这个我们当然敬表尊重。
With a year to go before the high-stakes 2026 local elections, the rules of the game could still change, making it a race like never before. Scott Huang and Tiffany Wong for TaiwanPlus.
Coming up after the break, over 100 people have died in Hong Kong's massive fire, but safety concerns were raised over a year ago. Why did it still happen?
At Connected, we believe in the power of dialogue.
Taipei 101 station.
It's not just about the headlines, it's about finding common ground. Join the conversation.
Global semiconductor.
Trump administration's
Connected on TaiwanPlus.
Welcome back. You're watching TaiwanPlus News. Authorities are narrowing their investigation into a Hong Kong apartment fire that claimed at least 151 lives. At the heart of the probe are the construction safety practices used in renovations before the blaze. Hong Kong's Labor Department has revealed that it received fire safety complaints from residents in the year leading up to the disaster. Over 100 people were killed when Hong Kong's deadliest fire in decades engulfed 7 high-rise apartment buildings, leaving many others injured or missing. Authorities have arrested at least 11 people in connection to the fires, 3 of them on suspicion of manslaughter for unsafe construction practices which ultimately led to the fire. The building complex is Wong Fuk Court, an affordable public housing project. It was undergoing massive renovations at the time of the fire, with each building covered in bamboo scaffolding and green mesh, materials that may have contributed to the fire's rapid spread.
But this one was largely due to the bamboo scaffolding and other combustible materials during renovation. So it's kind of from initial fire to facade widespread fire, then to multiple spots of the residential unit fire. So that is how the fire become so devastating.
There might have been warning signs that this disaster was coming, signs that were ignored. According to Hong Kong's Labor Department, residents complained about fire hazards last September, over a year before the fire. Authorities responded saying that they faced, quote, relatively low fire risks. Following the complaints, the Labor Department reviewed the certification for the construction mesh and told residents that it met standards. While the mesh could have contributed to the fire's spread, poor construction practices may have been what started the inferno. One video shows a construction worker smoking within the green mesh. Other oversights likely added to the risk.
Fires on scaffolding at construction sites are usually due to the accumulation of construction debris, like paper.
In light of the Wong Fuk Court fire, Hong Kong is reviewing its policies on bamboo scaffolding. Workers have been spotted taking down construction mesh around the city, a sign that Hong Kong is looking to revamp and reform in order to recover. John Su and Leslie Liao for TaiwanPlus. Revenue from China's top military firms fell by 10% last year, even as global revenue grew. That's according to a new report by the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, a Swedish think tank focused on conflicts and arms control. The report said the drop came amid allegations of corruption within the industry, which caused arms contracts to be delayed or canceled. Beijing has been cracking down on corruption in its military, expelling 9 top generals in October. Researchers say the findings cast doubt on China's modernization plans for its military. Productive. That's what U.S. and Ukrainian officials are calling a meeting in Florida aimed at helping end Moscow's nearly 4-year-long war against Kyiv.
We were discussing about the future of Ukraine. We discussed all the important matters that are important for Ukraine, for Ukrainian people, and the U.S. was super supportive.
U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said the meeting builds on earlier U.S.-Ukraine talks in Geneva, but he said there's more to be done, especially with a U.S. envoy headed to Russia later this week.
There are a lot of moving parts, and obviously there's another party involved here that'll have to be a part of the equation, and that'll continue later this week when Mr. Witkoff travels to Moscow, although we've also been in touch in varying degrees with the Russian side, but we have a pretty good understanding of their views as well.
Meanwhile, Russian forces are still advancing on the front line with attacks on Ukraine's capital continuing over the weekend. What's it like to be a foreigner with HIV in Taiwan? For some, the burden is heavy. And while the government has worked to reduce HIV cases and get foreign residents who test positive on medication to control the virus, the high cost of treatment has only added to their difficulties. Iron Lin reports.
Peeling off common myths and fears around HIV and AIDS. On this year's World AIDS Day, Taiwan Centers for Disease Control hosted an event to raise awareness of medical treatment and prevention and embrace those who live with it. Drag queens also came to support members of Taiwan's LGBTQ+ community who are HIV positive. Many find it hard to break the news to their friends and family, as they struggle with the virus and social stigma tied to their sexuality. But there's a group of people who face an added layer of hardship: foreign residents who've contracted HIV in Taiwan. Sharing his story by video call is Chong Kun-khum. Originally from Malaysia, he's lived in Taiwan for over a decade. He tested positive for HIV in 2023 and recalls how his life changed overnight.
我有一个很好的朋友，当他知道我是感染者身份的时候，他把我们的碗筷分开，然后我们洗澡，他会用那个消毒水来喷射。我发现我处理的不只是艾滋的关系，我要处理的是人际的关系，我要处理我的身份的关系，我要处理的是自我认同的关系。
Zhuang is one of many foreign residents with HIV eligible for national health insurance, but that only kicks in to cover expensive medications 2 years after diagnosis and treatment. And there are other restrictions for insurance coverage. One must be employed in legal work, have valid residency after 6 months of living here, and have notified health authorities about their diagnosis. Many have no choice but to seek care back home. They risk judgment over their positive status, and for some, their queer identity from family and society.
外籍感染者在台湾真的是介于生存跟流离之间，就是你的药费、你的身份、你的健保、你的法律，每个环节都让你觉得你不是这里的人。我有些朋友他们是马来西亚人，然后他们感染过后，他们没有办法支付这庞大的费用，所以他们被迫回马来西亚，然后 家人问他，被迫告知就是感染艾滋，同时同志身份也被出柜了。
Regardless of status and identity, foreign residents with HIV or AIDS have to carry this heavy burden if they don't have stable and sufficient income in Taiwan. NGO Taiwan Lord Association is one of few groups helping those who can't afford the medication by buying cheaper generic brands.
那原厂药 就会价格比较高，有的时候跟学名药相差可能会相差到10倍、10倍、15倍这样子的价差。如果说一个外籍朋友他的经济条件不够的话，叫他自费去买这些药，比如说每个月要13000、14000，他可能没有办法负担。
Taiwan CDC says it hears these demands and will consider expanding insurance coverage to help more vulnerable individuals among foreign residents.
我们在持续来研议说，是不是针对一些这个像比如说青少年、儿童，或者是说这个有永久居留的这些外籍感染者，能够有足够的这个财源经费来挹注他们未来在前2年当中的一些这个感染者治疗的一些费用。那目前会在朝这个方向在进行一些经费跟可行性的一些评估，然后。
While the government and NGOs work to better inform the public about HIV and AIDS, they may also hope for a future where no one is left behind. Klein Wang and Irene Lin for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan has secured 2 gold medals at the World Bodybuilding Championships over the weekend in Saudi Arabia. 37-year-old Liu Ming-yi clinched both golds at the event held by the International Federation of Bodybuilding and Fitness, or IFBB. He took top spots in his height range for the categories of men's fitness model and men's physique. The medals did not come easily, though, as Liu only began training at age 27, much later than most competitors. Liu's new golds add to his win at the IFBB Asian Championships earlier this year. Thank you for watching TaiwanPlus News. You can visit the TaiwanPlus website or follow our social media for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally, let's end today with images of a floating Christmas tree lighting up the night sky in Brazil. I'm Leslie Liao. Take care and see you next time.